All right, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this. I'm going to call it a Monday because it feels like a Monday. I'm not even joking. Even though it is Thursday night here along the West Coast, it's Monday for me. I'm not even joking. So, latest earthquake activity here at about 11:25 Thursday night. Looks like some activity really ramping up out here along the Big Island of Hawaii. Of course, we got Kilauea Volcano kicking up out there. Also seeing some movement here along the west coast, including a 4.5 earthquake out here, just off the Cascadia subduction zone here along the Blanco fracture zone here. Definitely seen some activity out here today, and historically it's pretty active here along this area of the fracture boundary. That should apply and continue to apply stress out here along the west coast. We are seeing a little bit of that uptick here outside of Redding, with a little bit of activity here near, it says Shasta, but this is near the Bald Hills area outside of Anderson, California. Oh, goodness, I just got hiccups all of a sudden. 2.1 and the 1.8 in the last hour. Now, we did see a little bit of activity up and down the board here. I'm not for sure what happened to that earthquake activity, but it looks as though the movement that was kicking up here outside of Willows, we did have some activity up against the, there's a thrust fault, and you can actually see the fault boundary here. Check that out. It extends near the Elk Creek area southward, all the way down to the Esparto area. That's the Great Valley Thrust Fault. Now, they were showing a couple of 2s and some 3s there, but it looks as though everything disappeared from that area. I'm not for sure why, but that has since been removed, and I don't like it. I do not like it when they remove stuff. So, just for the record, right now there is some activity at the Bald Hills area, outside of the Shasta area. This is basically southwest of Redding, here along the northern Sacramento Valley. So we'll continue to watch that. I don't know. Maybe I need to start taking screenshots of things, right? There was never earthquake activity out here. Well, check this out. There's screenshots of it. So, either way, it looks as though there's some type of uptick out here across the California area for now. Still seeing some movement out here across the southern portion of the state. You know, maybe we should screen capture that as well. I mean, it's crazy to think that stuff just disappears out here on the map. I don't get it. Okay, so on a serious note here, we're watching some activity outside of the Coachella area, Indio area. This is on the North American side of the plate boundary here. Now, this baby right here, see that dark red line? That is the southern branch of the plate boundary, better known as the San Andreas Fault. And this area has been primed. It's been talked about. Humans have put about their theory on what it's going to take to produce a big earthquake out here, and the estimated magnitude of an 8.1 is what some folks are calling here across this area of the plate boundary. Now, obviously we know it's locked and loaded. The stress is there. The built up accumulation stress is there, big time. But the thing is, what's it going to take? Is it going to take, someone going through the, is it going to take an earthquake swarm? Maybe an earthquake swarm out here in the area? Or is it going to take little signs like this, just on the North American side of the plate boundary, off of the San Andreas Fault, that may be a sign of some movement? That's kind of why I'm paying a very close attention to this. We don't see too much activity out here off on the eastern side, very close to the San Andreas Fault. Obviously, there's stress out here at fault systems that protrude here across the San Bernardino Mountains. Many different faults out here. It's a major area. Why wouldn't there be faults, right? But we're talking about right off of the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. So this is why I'm kind of watching this area. This is not the only earthquake activity that's been taking place here. Let's look at the last, this is the last 7 days, but I guarantee you, unless they remove the earthquake activity, there's been more. So look at that. We're talking about roughly about 36 earthquakes here within that swarming area, mostly smaller microquakes, but even then that smaller microquake activity can give a hint, give a signal that something is ready and obviously stressed within this zone here. So it's any type of swarming area, any type of earthquake swarm here around or within the San Andreas Fault requires a head up. This is not fear mongering. This is just simply the facts out here. The triggering area, so to speak. It doesn't matter about the triggering area. This is really outside of the plate boundary, within walking distance. There's some signs of activity picking up here. So I just kind of want to give a heads up out here. I'm going to continue to keep the earthquake watch out here for Southern Cal. And for the main area to watch is going to be Barrett here in the Southern California area for some activity. It's just, it's right now it's minimal, right? If you think about it, just a couple smaller microquakes. But the thing is, there's stress out there, and stress amongst a major plate boundary, 8.1 or greater. That's the thing. There could be an 8.1 or greater out here along the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. So imagine that. Just imagine that. So why wouldn't you guys want to be informed about it? So that's kind of why I'm here, to just pinpoint that activity right now. We do have one earthquake here in the last, last hour. Altadena, is that right? Northeast of Los Angeles, 1.3. Watch this area, folks. The West Coast has definitely been active. Let me check out the tremor, Cascadia tremor. It's a big 0. That's the number tonight. A big 0 out here across the Cascadia tremor for now. So, and what I see with this study here, as far as the tremor activity goes, is that what are we going to forecast out there in terms of earthquake activity? Are we looking at elevated potential for the Cascadia tremor with Cascadia earthquake with minimal tremor, or are we looking at the elevated earthquake potential here for the Cascadia subduction zone with elevated tremor? Tremor activity is a slow slip event, so to speak, and we can show you guys here the past couple years of activity. We'll go ahead and bring that up here, and it's gonna be overblown, but this pretty much gives the outline of where the tremor activity is taking place, right? Where the Cascadia subduction zone is taking place out here. And this tremor basically is a slow slip type of event of earthquake activity down into the major subduction zone here of the Cascadia. But also at the same time, you got the slow slip event, right? Adding further strain offshore. The offshore built-up activity is up here, where the ridges take place. You can't see it here, but there's ridges on the oceanic crust that are taking place due to the strain that's taking place down dip. That's it. That's where you're looking at a 9.1 earthquake taking place there. And it's going to happen. The last earthquake was back in 1700. So what are we sitting at? 2023? How many years? Are we just comfortable knowing that it's been 323 years since the last earthquake? I don't know. It's, A lot of people think that the Cascadia tend to relate to the San Andreas Fault, a plate boundary down here. And that's very possible. There's not a subduction zone down here in Southern California. It extends down roughly here, that plate boundary. Look at that. You can see the southern end here of the Gorda Plate being subducted. That's the extreme end. You will not find any tremor south of here at all. Because there is no subduction zone here. That extends south here to this area outside of Chico. The rest of the plate boundary is a transform fault. It's a different type of setup compared to a subduction zone earthquake. So that's why we don't see that tremor occurring further down dip. But this is just, an example of showing you guys that the tremor amount of earthquake tremor amount is increasing, so to speak, in this area. But I'll bring up the all data once again. If you look at the graph here, the last elevated tremor activity has been roughly in about October of last year. We're getting close. So there's only been a handful of elevated tremors here. It looks like roughly between April and May or June, but it's been minimal at that. We have not seen any major elevated tremors. This is, if you look at the counts here, the spikes here on the graph indicate the elevated tremor count. And over the last almost year, roughly within this time frame, it's been very minimal. What that means? Well, there's a couple different scenarios here. It means that, or at least theories, it means that the tremor, or at least the subduction zone area, is pretty locked and loaded, and that it cannot subduct anymore. Right? We get the subduction or tremor activity here down dip due to strain out here along the Pacific Northwest. So if it's locked and loaded, not only at the subduction areas, but down dip, downstream, well, you won't get tremor activity. So it's a little, who's to say that lack of tremor could produce the Cascadia, or increased tremor could produce the Cascadia mega quake out here? We don't know. It's definitely a topic. It's a subject that everyone's studying, and it's relatively new. If you look at the original counts back here, it only goes to about 2010. So we're studying this. I'm hopeful that this activity will give us a good indicator of when the next Cascadia earthquake will take place, because this is more dangerous. If you really think about it, this is more dangerous than the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. And the reason why is because the San Andreas Fault down here in Southern California is only capable of an 8.1. And no doubt, I'm not going to downplay it, that will produce some damage out here across Southern California, but it will not produce a tsunami Pacific-wide. When this thing produces a 9.1, not only are we looking at the magnitude damage here across the Pacific Northwest, but the subsequent tsunami that will take place out here. A 9.1 will produce, no doubt, a major tsunami. Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Vancouver Island range. Guess what? That will extend all across the Pacific, Hawaii, and into Japan. So it's a big deal, folks. That's why I state that the Cascadia is definitely major, more hazard compared to the San Andreas Fault, but there's some relation to those two. There's definitely a time frame of when the last two kicked off. So I don't think it's a quinky-dink coincidence there. I think it's something we need to pay attention to out there for sure. All right, let's move on here. The Big Island of Hawaii, that's another big deal out there. Get some movement off the coast of Pahala. The Kilauea Volcano area, of course, activity stirring up out there. Let's go ahead and check out the latest informational statement here from the Well, you know who it is. It's a USGS, right? Science for a changing world. No doubt, this world is changing. So, the HVO here, latest Kilauea volcano update here. It's not erupting, folks, but it is currently exhibiting signs of elevated unrest. No unusual activity has been noted across the rift zones for now, though. This has been the ongoing event for a little while. And we'll continue to watch it. I think we'll see a major earthquake swarm. Talking about a couple hundred earthquakes within I'd say a couple hours or so before we see this thing kick back up. That's my estimate. That's my guesstimate, so to speak. All right, further down southwest, Vanuatu, New Zealand. What do we got going on here? Well, let's go to the GeoNet servers here. The latest information here from GeoNet shows, volcanic activity here across the Wakari White Island area at an alert level 2. Due to, this has been an ongoing event for a while, though. A moderate to heightened volcanic unrest. Rapu area looks like a minor volcanic unrest. But far as earthquake activity goes, very minor reports here over the last hour. And looking at the recent earthquake activity here, 12 hours ago, 2.5 being reported. But for the most part, that just tells me there that things are minimal. The worldwide, or at least the regional-wide seismograph stations here does not show any major elevated movement here. So a little bit of activity out here across the South Island area. It looks like that's some of that movement taking place there in the last 12 hours prior to that. But for the most part, things are very quiet. South Island area. What do we got here? Oh, my goodness, it's a scattered ball of earthquake activity out here. I'm not even joking. It's like, goodness, I don't even know where to begin. The Mediterranean areas, obviously some activity. Some movement well outside of the Greenland Sea, a 4.0 out there in the divergent boundaries. The Azores area has been showing some elevated movement out here. This is a divergent boundary out here. And these areas do see some earthquakes, not major earthquakes. They do see sixes, maybe a mid-six or so, but you know, think about the stress out here. Unless we get some major elevated movement below with volcanic activity, magma movement, then obviously we could see a wide-scale type of event. But mostly, it's between 5s and 6s out here across the Atlantic Ocean that take place. And down here across the Mid-Atlantic Ridge as well. Let's see here. What do we got? Anything else going on across the Mediterranean area? We got, yeah, mostly smaller earthquakes. There's some threes and fours out there. Goodness. Again, I would, California is just lighting up like crazy. I'm not even joking. I keep mentioning California because it continues to light up out here from roughly north to south along the plate boundary, and that's a little concerning, seeing that further stress out here. I think we should keep California in mind for some further movement out here in the next couple days. That's my area of interest for now. The solarham.net activity out here, I mean, if you're talking about a solar cycle maximum, well, this is not what you want to see here. We're looking at solar activity dipping below. I'm not even joking. Look at this, dipping below the C flare category. That's something you see pretty often in the solar minimum, which we just got off of here in the last few years. So, but you know, we can't really predict it. Can't really predict what the sun is going to do, but we can watch rapid progression of sunspots here, and this is what the magnetogram image is for. Right now, the only image of concern, doesn't matter if this blue spot is the main target. If we had that blue spot out here, say 1,000 times as big as that, there's no complexity within that sunspot core. So generally, we're not going to look at any major solar flare activity. When you get complexity, we're looking at blue, red, orange, yellow within a core. And this is the main area that I'm kind of watching here for some further flaring activity. But aside from that, this guy can go away. And the rest of the sunspots out here are not looking promising at all. But keep an eye on 34, 15. It looks like that's the main sunspot image for some flaring. 90% chance for a C flare, M flare at 15, X flare around 5%. Okay, it went up. But again, I think that's due to the complexity of the sunspot region here across the southeastern limb of the sun. All right, I'm freezing here. I'm not even joking. Here in the computer room, I keep this place cold. I'm not even joking. That's kind of why Missy Mimi stays out of here. It's 61 degrees here. I'm not even joking. I got a couple different AC units here that are keeping all the computers, everything that I own here as far as the electronic equipment, nice and cool. And that's kind of how it has to be, right? Don't want computers overheating because then you come into issues. All right, let's see what we've got for the numerical model out here. We're looking at a little bit of tropical development out here off the coast of Florida. I don't think we're going to see any issues, but let me bring in the fear-mongering map, okay? Let's bring in the fear-mongering map. A lot of people have been showing this, you know, and I could probably get maybe 1 million views or so with this image, but and it's probably already disappeared, but you probably see the image of the Atlantic hurricane season getting active, right? We've seen like 3 hurricanes out here. 1, 2, 3, all heading in this direction. Well, this is the middle of the Atlantic, and for the most part, this is the, you know, the warmest waters. They do take place out here, but you have to think about what the dynamics are taking place here. We got multiple high-pressure systems that are creating a different travel path for these hurricanes, and there's really nothing that is headed off towards the United States. But I tell you what, I've seen an image, and I'm sure you guys have too, of 3 hurricanes coming in, saying that the Atlantic Ocean is getting active and heads up the United States. Well, you know, it is that time of year, but the fear mongering that the news media is taking place is just, oh goodness, you know, it's like, give me a break. So looking at this model, okay, I could fear monger this, and again, probably get a couple million views out here, and I'd be well above 100,000 subscribers with this image pointing towards Florida or the East Coast. But if you think about this, this is the 2nd week of September. Things change, right? Weather patterns change. This is only relevant probably about a week out. So this hurricane out here off the coast, Puerto Rico area, it's gone. It's getting caught up in the upper level patterns here around the high pressure system. There's nothing that will bring that tropical storm into the Gulf. The rest of these hurricanes, they all follow that pattern. So for now, there's no major storm development that's expected into the Gulf of Mexico area. But I've seen it. Goodness, you know, it's everywhere. Fear mongering is everywhere, guys. I'm not even joking. For now, factual data, factual information. I know it's boring at times, but you know, it's It is what it is. You know, Yellowstone's not blowing. Yellowstone's not showing any signs of elevated unrest. And in fact, everything's mellow and calm right now across Yellowstone. Small microquake activity. No thunderstorm activity. So we're not seeing any widespread blown up, so to speak, movement out there across the graphs there. A lot of times people like to fearmonger the thunderstorm activity and say it's magma movement, but it's just goodness. Come on, guys. You know, it's think about it. All right, I'm gonna jump off here before I get onto a major rant. It's not even Friday. We'll save that rant for Friday, which is Friday. When is Friday? Oh my gosh! Tomorrow we're gonna rant on. We're gonna rant tomorrow, big time Friday. I'm not even joking. I'm gonna spill my beans, and we'll go on and on about who knows what. I'll make it a Friday rant. I'm not even joking. But for now, it's Thursday. We'll continue to remain civil and calm, and look at the factual information out here. So, by the way, guys, I think we are going to hit 100,000 subscribers by tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow night. Once that happens, it's kind of a big deal for the folks that have been following this channel for a while. Look at that new Madrid seismic zone showing some activity with a 2.6. Tiptonville. Is that Tiptonville, like tip your cup? Tip your whiskey cup? Right? Why would they call that Tiptonville, right? Tiptonville, Tennessee. There's got to be a story behind that. I'm guessing it has something to do with alcohol, but I'm not for sure. Let me know if you guys know. But either way, that's a new Madrid seismic zone here. And that's a obviously hazardous area. For now, 2.6. All right, folks, I'm going to bounce out of here before I get myself in trouble. But please share the channel. Let your friends know we are very close to 100,000 subscribers. And when that happens, we got a big-time giveaway coming up. We're not talking about just a member drawing. We're talking about something much bigger. So we need to make that happen. I think it's going to happen probably tomorrow. And we'll go from there. Have a good night. Peace out. Hope everyone enjoys their Thursday. And again, Friday's coming up tomorrow. If it's not Friday already where you're at, you know, it's coming up obviously very soon. We'll catch you guys back here ASAP. Have a good night.